Hello, and I'm Rob Reed, and I'm also Yoga Dad, and welcome to the second of my online yoga for cyclist classes that I'll be running during the Tour de France this year. It's a beautiful, peaceful morning in Bristol today, and I'm really glad, really grateful for you joining me for this second of the classes. Now, as I said in the first class, these classes are set up to really focus on those specific areas of aches and tension in the body that cyclists often experience, maybe across the shoulders and the neck, lower back, hips and hamstrings, all those kind of areas that are often a common cause for complaint for cyclists. And so by doing these short classes, hopefully they're the kind of thing that you can just fit into the day quite easily, not just to do once, but on a regular basis, and really help ease some of that tension across the body and fundamentally, ultimately, result in more enjoyable bike rides. So let's start today actually in a comfortable seated position. So as I said in the first class, if you feel like you need it, feel free to use a block or a book and just placing that underneath the tailbone, and just to give yourself that bit of extra height, just ideally hips at least at the same height as the knees, just to ease any tension across the hips themselves, but also along the insides of the thighs and the hamstrings. Okay, so let's find ourselves in that comfortable cross-legged position. And now let's close our eyes with our palms across our knees. And as we draw our attention away from our sight, we now bring attention to our other senses. So the sounds that we can hear around us. Maybe it's birdsong if we're outdoors. If not, whatever else you can hear. And just really focus on that for a moment, just allowing yourself, inviting yourself to be present in this moment. Now bringing attention to where the body comes into contact with the ground or the block, even where the palms are across the knees. And again, really feeling that sensation, feeling that contact, and inviting that opportunity to be present. Now bringing attention to the body itself. That sense as though the crown of the head is lifting up towards the sky or the ceiling. Those palms pressed subtly against the knees, just creating that bit more space across the chest, the shoulder blades drawing in ever so slightly towards one another. Tailbone grounding down through the floor. And that length that's now created, that space between each vertebrae along the length of the spine. And with that extra space that we've now got, hopefully across the hips, if we're sitting on blocks, just that sense as though the hips are rotating away from one another. Length along the insides of the thighs, no sharp pains at all across the knees. And then tracing that line all the way down towards the ankles and the tips of the toes. Now when tracing that line, you may have found that you paused upon particular areas of aches or tension. So maybe using that to frame your practice today. Where you set your challenge, the boundary around how far you want to push yourself, and not going beyond that. Then bringing attention to the breath, where the breath originates, the deep abdominal region, and where the breath arrives to. Maybe it just circles around the belly. Maybe on each inhale you can direct the breath up towards the ribs. Maybe even as far as the chest, the lower neck. But don't worry if you can't. Just allowing each inhale and exhale just to rise and fall down the body like a wave. Now bringing attention to the mind, acknowledging any thoughts that you have. And if at any point you become distracted, not just now, but through the practice, then bringing your attention back to the body, back to the breath, back to the physical space that's around you. Now in a nice soft gaze, slowly opening the eyes. So looking directly ahead. Now we'll just start with some shoulder rolls, as we did in our first class. Rolling the shoulders up towards the ears. We'll just do a few of these this time, just to ease any tension across the collarbones, along the side of the neck. Now on the next inhale, let's lift our arms now up and overhead. We're really feeling as though we're reaching the fingers up towards the sky. As we exhale, let's fold forward. So we don't necessarily need to place the hands that far forward. In fact, let me just step back just a little bit. So we don't necessarily need to fold that far forward. Just go as far as feels comfortable for you across the hips, along the length of the spine. Ideally, we don't want to be in a position where we're rounding the spine, placing a lot more strain on the lower back. So it may well be that you have to lift yourself up just to create that bit more space across the chest and shoulders. Otherwise, feel free just to lower yourself down. So lowering the head down between the arms, chin towards the chest. Inhaling now just to lengthen, exhaling to fold down. And ideally you want to really feel as though the hips are still in contact with the mat or the ground, hips rolling back, creating that little bit more length along the spine, but also allowing that space across the hips. Really feeling as though the breath is filling into the side body. Now if it feels comfortable, just slowly start walking the hands around towards the right hand side. So again, you might find that you need to lift the body up first before you lower yourself down. And just allowing that left hip to really still feel as though it's in contact with the mat. And breathing now, directing that breath in towards the left side of the body as we lower the chest down across the right thigh. Now we do the same on the left hand side, so walking our palms either directly around or taking ourselves up first, lengthening along the spine again, creating that space across the chest, and then lowering ourselves down, chest across the left thigh. Now that right hip, contact down towards the mat, breathing into that right side of the body. We're slowly walking ourselves back towards the centre again. Now we'll take our hands now behind our hips and we'll just tuck our tailbone under so the pelvis tilting forward, creating that space across the chest and the shoulders here, just pressing down through the palms as now we lift our hips up. So we may not need to go very far, and feel free to use the block if you need to, just to provide that little bit of extra support. And ideally we want to be feeling that opening now across the hips, along the hip flexors, along the insides of the thighs. And then slowly lowering ourselves back down again, nice and gentle. Bringing our palms back across our knees. We inhale now to lift our arms up and overhead. And we're going to twist around to the right hand side. So we inhale to lengthen and exhale to twist. And then inhaling to lengthen again. Exhaling to twist around now to the left hand side. And really pressing down through the right fingers in front of the shins. And left hand which is behind the back. If it feels comfortable, shifting the gaze across the back shoulder. And we do that one more time on either side. And this time as we twist around, we'll take our left palm and bring it across the right knee. And having the right hand, right fingers just pressing down parallel the length of the spine. This lateral movement is really good for us as cyclists, where often our spines are in a fixed position. And then inhaling back up and overhead, and exhaling back down. Now final pose in this sequence, let's take our left fingers out towards the side. Inhale as we lift our right hand up and overhead, and we just fold over towards that left hand side. So really feeling as though we're reaching with the right fingers across towards the left. And again, that right hip, just bringing attention to that, just making sure that that feels as though it's connected down towards the ground. Feel free to walk the fingers out that little bit further. Don't compromise that top shoulder. So if it feels like it's rounding forward, lifting the right arm back up and overhead. Inhaling back up, both arms, hands back on the knees, and then doing the same on the right hand side. So walking that right fingers out, inhaling to lift the left arm up, and exhaling to fold over towards the right hand side this time, reaching the left fingers across, really feeling that space that's now created along the left side of the body. Again, feel free to walk the fingers out that little bit further and just being mindful about what's happening with that top shoulder and whether it's collapsing forward. Inhaling back up to the centre, palms back across the knees, Let's arrive in our final pose, so a comfortable seated position, and closing our eyes once again. So drawing attention now back to the physical space that's around us, those sounds that we can hear, where our body comes into contact with the ground. Attention back to the body. Checking in with how we feel now compared to the start of the class, particularly around those common aches or tensions that we might be feeling. Really feeling that sense as though the crown of the head is reaching up. Tailbone drawing down, but space across the body as well. Across the chest, across the shoulders, across the hips. Attention back to the breath. Slow, steady rhythm. Checking in where the breath originates and arrives to in the upper body. How that makes you feel physically, mentally. Attention back to the mind. Acknowledging any thoughts, just putting them to one side just for a moment. Just bringing yourself back to the present. Bringing yourself back into the body, the breath, and the physical space that's around you. Now slowly opening the eyes again. Nice soft gaze. Hands back to heart center. Thank you for joining me for the second of these online bite-sized Yoga for Cyclists classes that will be running through the course of the Tour de France. I hope you've enjoyed today. I really look forward to seeing you for the next class in the sequence very soon. Namaste.